I just got back from Washington, D.C. I'm telling you, we are not doing a good job of talking about the changes that are happening because the faith office is down the hall from the Oval Office. I'm talking like down the hall. The president just did a call, talk with 10,000 people. I'll try to put the link out there for you so you can all get it. The president did a call talking about how he's fighting for religious liberty. He's fighting for Christians to be able to not be persecuted against in government offices and such, and he's delivering on that promise. You know the number of cabinet members he's got that actually are born again? They don't totally wave it out there for the secular media. You've got Christians at an unprecedented level of engagement right now, and I'm so proud of what they're doing. The achievements that we have, and Robert Kennedy, what he's doing to lighten up and loosen up, he's clamping down on the fraud and the fake weird stuff that they control in medicine, but he's loosened up research and new opportunities. That's why I'm saying what's happening with stem cells nowadays, instead of being persecuted and controlled by the industry, there's an opening up so you have access to stuff. People used to have to leave the country to get a hold of what you can get a hold of now. I want you to check out level10matrix.com. The most powerful, pure, deliverable, affordable, dynamic, results-oriented stem cell technology. I've seen it. I've studied them all. I've watched them all. I've been approached by people involved with them all. But this is the one that I've seen the most results with. Level10matrix.com. Call 800-361-2200.
2270.
I'm sorry. Let me do that again. Call 1-800-361-2270, and you can get your questions answered. What I'm going to tell you is this. I do it. Annabelle does it. My staff does it. And we think it's one of the secret keys to being able to live longer and stronger. Level10matrix.com. Check it out for yourself. You'll be glad you did. Now, let's get into the Oval Office, the faith community, and see what the big, beautiful bill is up to, because we're making a difference, and you need to know what's happening behind the scenes. All right, so here's the deal, Lucille. We got this big, beautiful bill. You know what's in it? Every now and then I hear somebody like Steve Miller talk about it, and I get encouraged. But it's really weird. On all the polling, it has -21, meaning it's like below sea level. I think the Democrats are all criticizing it because they don't want Trump to have a single win. It's so weird. If Trump was to save the country from a nuclear attack, they would accuse him of provoking the nuclear attack and almost bringing nuclear destruction. So what are you going to do with that? The other part is the MAGA group is all like Elon Musked up on, and sorry to say, even here on our own platforms, we've done this where it's like the deficit, the spending, we got to deal with it. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. They don't have the ability to deal with it. So you don't put a 100-pound weight on a scrawny kid that can't press it. And so we got to give them what they can do. Trump's trying to torque the prosperity of America to such a roaring engine that he can move back and deal with reductions of costs. And listen, he did good with Iran, didn't he? Everybody's still worried about World War III. Everybody's still worried about war in the region. Let me remind you, China just took a look at what Trump did and said, dang, that guy, he's unpredictable. And I don't know that they saw our stealth bombers. They saw what landed in Guam, which tells you they were intentionally not stealth. They were letting China know, we got bombers over here, and while China's looking at our stealth bombers over there, bam, they went over there and took out Iran. Nope, they went over there. No, Russia, they can't stand us, but they're not thinking about testing Trump's resolve on anything. And the Iranians, same thing. Put on a bold face, but let's not push the issue. Canada even got back to the table. They brought tariffs on steel for 24 hours, and then the tech industries. And then Trump said, yeah, I'm going to announce in a week what your new tariff's going to be. I'll give you 5 days to think about that. They realized he could drive this thing up to 50% on everything and crush us. They said, well, we're going to back off on those tariffs on, taxes on your tech industries, and forget the steel thing for now. Let's just go back to normal, huh? Yeah, well, Trump's on a roll right now. He's looking for the largest tax cut in history. The problem is the Fed, as he's furious about, is costing us $500 billion in unnecessary interest debt, but let that be. He's going to give a tax cut. It's going to be $10,000 or more in annual take-home pay. That's kind of hard to imagine, isn't it? That's going to be interesting. How can he do that? But no tax on tips. The only thing about the no tax on tips is only Christians reported their tips anyway. The average person is all cash. It's under the table. It's like all the illegals in the country. I'm sorry to say this, but they're all over the industries in Texas. I see them. They're working in the housing. They're working on houses, doing roofing, and they're working on lawns all over the place. But they're working. These are the working folks. And so
I got a question for that.
Yeah.
Do you think that applies to politicians as well?
In what way?
They can get tips, they can get handouts, they can get favors. They don't have to declare anything. They don't have to get taxed on it.
Well, they do. As a matter of fact, when Bob Menendez, the New Jersey senator, he just went to prison. But I mean, look at that. It took him 5 years, and he had to be he was given gold bars in his closet.
Yeah, but that was before this was passed.
He's trying to explain that one to the ethics committee.
Right.
What?
So I'm saying now that this is passed, though, because that was, old covenant. This is new.
Are you saying that Congress people are still getting? Well, they go in there. They go in there and they come out millionaires. Something's going on.
I would never say that our politicians, breaking down the word to many blood-sucking vermin.
All right, Carl. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security. No tax on Made in America auto loans. Protects 2 million family farms. Okay, that's good. Deports at least 1 million illegal aliens a year. Well, under Biden, we have about 12 million came in. That's only going to be 4 million out. That's not enough. But people are freaking out over what he's doing now, so I guess that's got to go. Makes the largest investment in border security. Okay, good. Finishes the. I know, Carl, look up phase 2 of the border wall, will you?
Sure.
I never know what phase 2 is talking about. Hire 10,000 new ICE agents, 5,000 custom officials, 3,000 border agents. Fund that Golden Dome missile protection shield over the United States. That's not a bad idea. Deliver the largest, modernize our military, end Biden's war on energy, unleash domestic energy. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff in the big, beautiful bill. And I'm hoping that Trump gets his July 4th gift. I hope he gets that. And I hope that we're all going to be able to see that big, beautiful bill produce the prosperity it's supposed to. Now I want to get into something. I only got 6 minutes left. And I got to get into this. I want to talk about the president's faith agenda. And there's not enough. It's kind of frustrating now that I'm aware of the problem. There's not enough cohesion. The church, the Christian community, does not have the unity it should have. It needs it. Because Donald Trump, he's the first guy, the old saying, not in the room, you're not in the deal. Not at the table, you're not in the deal. You got to be at the table to be in the deal. Donald Trump took evangelical Christians, including pro-life Catholics, he took us as a group, formidable and large as we are, over 50% of the Republican Party, at least 40% of those that put these guys in office. He took us from being the photo op with the pastor that goes up in the Oval Office and stands there and holds, shakes hands with President Clinton, Obama, or Bush, or whoever. He said, forget that, I'll do the photo ops, but even more important, I think you're a large group. I think that you're a group that represents more votes and similar values for making America great again. The old Billy Graham, the great Billy Graham. America needs religion like we had in Billy Graham's day, like good morality, solid morality. And you know what? I want to put you at the table. So he put us right down the office. I mean, literally, we're the first people that have a faith office within proximity down the hall from the Oval Office. Freaks people out that we're that close. But, well, Trump's kind of eccentric that way. Paula White. Why Paula White? That's what you hear on the Hill. That's what you hear in the demonic chatter. But what you hear if you open your ears to heaven is you got a president that finally has opened up an opportunity for Christians to have proximity to a place of power, of influence, where their voices can be heard. It's not a perfect administration. You're going to find the log cabin Republicans are all over the place there. And that's the homosexual lobby for Republicans. But it doesn't stop the fact that Trump is turning around and saying, you guys have never been really properly represented. In fact, I think you've been persecuted. I think in government work, when it came time for you to get a job, you didn't get it because you were perceived as being evangelical, as though that disqualifies you from service. And he said, that's not what freedom of religion is. So Trump proceeded to have a broadcast this week, and I got to get it out to you. Matter of fact, I'm going to try to put the link up here so you could hear it. And he said, together we're fighting to defend religious liberty. He's talking with anyone who wanted to be on the call who was a faith leader. You could be any faith, but he's talking primarily to Christians, saying, you know, I've fought like no administration ever for you guys in order to protect you so that you wouldn't be a persecuted, hunted, marginalized community. The participants on Monday's call included Paula White and Jenny Korn, who you'll hear more of. I'll have to get them on the show now and then. But Trump talked about the radical war on Christians when he entered office. And he said that, you know, he's done the best he can. For those Christians who, for instance, refused to take the vax that were in the military, he reinstated service members that were thrown out because they had religious objections. They just felt like God warned them, don't take that. And so, no, they didn't. They didn't go with that vaccination. And as a result, a lot of people that did have problems, but they lost their jobs because they didn't toe the government line and get the vax the government told them to. So that was Biden. But what did Trump do? He put him back in, gave him full back pay, and said stop, and then penalties on the agencies that removed them from office and took them out of the military. He said, I sent up a Department of Justice, a DOJ task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias, which is so ironic in a way, because one of my big beefs is at the Kennedy Center, Rick Grinnell was put there. Now, Rick Grinnell is like a conservative homosexual guy who claims to be of a Christian orientation. But right away, he fires the vice president who they put in there, Floyd Brown, because of comments he made years ago at a Christian rally about how it is that the Republican Party became so infiltrated by homosexual lobbying. And it happened under Bush because Bush put the hiring in the hands of a guy who is homosexual. So when he's vetting who gets what roles, it's like he would, you know, he'd make sure that he was sympathetic to the guy or the gal who claimed to have been LGBTQ. So you see, that's how it was. Ken Malman or something like that. It was a guy that ended up being the key guy for Bush. And all that Floyd did was he just said, here's the inside baseball. It happened years ago. And that opened up the gate to, and he said, you know, basically, so they make great staff members because they don't have family obligations. They don't have babies, and they're not having kids they're taken care of. And so they work really great. They work 20-hour days for on the Hill. So they're great workers. And he was telling the truth about why it is that they have such a disproportionate penetration, influence, and presence within the Republican Party. He was fired by Rick Grinnell because he explained that at an event. It was recorded. He explained how the history of it happened. Fired, which I say the DOJ task force that eradicates anti-Christian bias needs to take a look at, don't you think? I do. I believe it needs to be taken a look at. Anyway, Trump says nobody talks about it. And he's right. He complains. He says, you know, you guys, you're not really good. The left talks about whatever they want to talk about. They grab the news cycle. They target ICE. They go about immigration. They go whatever their agenda is. They're vocal, vociferous. You Christians, nobody talks about anything. They don't talk about what I'm doing and talk about how you're persecuted. He makes a point of it. Anyway, I went over time here. He ruled that the Supreme Court, by the way, ruled that schools that violate religious liberty, that they cannot bar parents from opting their children out of LGBTQ indoctrination. If they're going to try to queer theory your kid, you need to know about it, and you need to be alert, and you can get your kid out of that class. That's not what you teach your kid. Why should their kids' minds be invaded by some radical teacher? Anyway, parents will now be allowed to opt out of having inappropriate books and sexual literature forced on them. That's a win from the Supreme Court. Every now and then we get excited about the fact that The Supreme Court actually does what needs to get done, and they did it this week. It's a victory for school choice also. That big, beautiful bill, according to Trump, says, man, you're going to get your choice of schools. That's a big deal for a lot of parents. Now, for those of you that are watching on our social media channels, you'll have to wait till tomorrow to get the war. I don't really talk about the Ezekiel chapters in the Bible, but since President Trump done such a good job with the Middle East, I think we need to reframe what happens next. It's not time right now for the nations to go against Israel. I wouldn't do that while Trump's in office, not on any day of the week. But it's coming. We're going to cover that in our next broadcast. Don't miss it. I'm going to talk about Magog and Ezekiel and where we are now with Iran and what's coming next. What if you could live younger and stronger for longer? Is it possible to reactivate your body's internal repair system the way God designed it? Are you or someone you love struggling with body degeneration and in search of some kind of an effective solution? At Level 10 Matrix, we believe that the power that created you can heal you, and that healing and regeneration are already encoded right inside your DNA. Whether it's due to injury or illness or aches or chronic pain or lack of energy, mental or physical decline, or the brain fog that seems to come with the aging process itself. If you want to revitalize your life now, then call 1-800-361-2270 or go to level10matrix.com now to claim your complimentary ebook and to schedule your complimentary no obligation, no pressure consultation. Remember, looking and feeling younger never gets old. So if you want to revitalize your life now, then call 1-800-361-2270 today.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.